And now it's time for us to discuss more of these headlines in simple keywords with Adam joining us on the line. Good morning, Adam.
Good morning, Lena. It is a Friday finally.
Long week?
Yes, it has been.
Is it ever a short week for any of us? Not really.
I know. I mean, the past few weeks, especially, I think when the weather gets warmer, I think all the weeks start to get a little bit slower and feel a little bit longer. Is it just me? Or is
I think that's the sun. It rises earlier. The day feels longer. Maybe that's a part of it. No?
Yeah, that's very scientific analysis.
For you, not so scientifically, you're golfing a lot.
Yeah, I knew that was going to come up.
I'm trying to make that a bit. Is it sticking?
I think so, yeah, a little bit. I'm now being associated with golf every time I mention anything about outdoors or the sun or the weather.
That's right. Or green, sunny weather, rainy weather. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I'm going to take a break soon.
It's too hot for that anyway.
It is going to be too hot, especially in the summer months.
All right. Let's turn our attention to keyword news, your other job.
Yes, my main job.
All right. We're going to start off with on the economy section, actually. This is our first keyword of the day.
Deregulation.
Finance Minister Chu Kyung-ho is vowing to do away with regulations that he says is holding back the country's economy and business activity. So allowing free market to run its course, business-centric, these are all very much in line with President Yoon's vows. Run us through what he said so far.
That's right. So Chu Kyung-ho has always been kind of touting a policy of revamping pretty much every aspect of the economy and parts and industries that play a big role in economies in line with Yoon Suk-yeol's campaign pledges. And he promised, again, bold steps to streamline red tape that obstructs or impedes corporate investments and other business activities. He was speaking during a cabinet meeting, and he mentioned the launch of a related task force to be led by himself later this month. And it will consist of economy-related ministers who will get together and come up with innovative measures to achieve a regulatory overhaul. It will be divided into smaller units, focusing on the environment, public health and medical care and prospective industries, among others. Chu also underscored the need for a drastic paradigm shift in economic policy, and he noted that the current regulations and tax rules are a bit outdated. And he vowed that the government will go for drastic deregulation to invigorate the corporate world and scrap any barriers that have obstructed business activities. And he said the preparations are underway for the Yoon government's first economic roadmap. Now, that roadmap will be unveiled next Thursday after the details are ironed out. A crucial part of that new policy is reforming economic regulations and removing any red tape that limits business growth. To tackle inflation, Chu asked ministers to prioritize stabilizing prices and called for efforts to deal with relevant administrative policies. And he also called for preemptive measures to achieve digital transformation, population change, and other measures to cope with sustainable growth. So basically, the key focus is to basically revise and revamp any restrictions that are currently in place, mostly a U-turn on the vast majority of the Moon Jae-in administration's restrictions and rules that have been in place.
All right, we'll have to wait and see. This is only 1 month into the Yoon administration's brand new policies, like you said, some which completely counters the former administration's economic policies. We'll wait and see how this pans out. Let's stay in the economy section. This is interesting. Our second keyword of the day.
No, stagflation.
Okay, so is that hopeful or is that based on numbers? That's what we're trying to get a better gauge of this morning. Despite concerns of inflation and slow growth, which is a pure definition of stagflation, as we've talked about, the Bank of Korea is downplaying the chances of stagflation in Korea.
Yeah, this is pretty interesting. There's been a whole load of analyses and indices and indices and analysis from watchers saying that stagflation is a big concern, not just in Korea, but around the world.
Right.
But the BOK Deputy Governor, Park Jong-seok, told reporters that Korea's economy actually has the potential to grow significantly. One of the reasons he cites is the anticipated increase in private spending, especially amid eased COVID restrictions. The Bank of Korea finds that more people are shopping in stores rather than online, so a lot of increase in the spending in face-to-face services. Last December, if we look at the numbers, 77% of all consumer goods were bought in person. In just 4 months, this figure increased by nearly 2 percentage points, mostly on the back of these eased restrictions and more people going out and about. And we mentioned about this kind of revenge spending, about people spending with this pent-up need to spend more outdoors. And Park noted that private spending will increase at a more solid pace than expected as well, although export growth may stall. Now, the central bank also downplayed the possibility that the US Fed's big step or 0.5 percentage point rate hike may actually lead to a massive outflow of capital from the Korean market. He said a rapid capital outflow is unlikely, with spending recovery gaining momentum in Korea and the country maintaining a surplus current account. Regarding the BOK's monetary policy, Park didn't rule out the possibility of a big step of its own, but for now, the BOK believes a 0.25 percentage point rate hike will be more appropriate, of which there are many to come for the rest of the year. As for the geopolitical effects on Korean exports, such as the Ukraine conflict and lockdowns in China, the central bank believes such downsides will slowly die down. So from the Bank of Korea's perspective, all those concerns about the Korean economy and stagflation aren't as warranted as what some analysts say.
We'll leave it there for now. Certainly not the end of it, because that seems to be a pretty tense tug of war between will it or will it not be, similar to the rest of the world facing stagflation concerns. All right. But for the time being, Bank of Korea is definitely downplaying the prospects of that. On to our third keyword of the day.
Mulling NATO summit.
So speculation is rising of a long-awaited Korea-Japan summit on the sidelines of the NATO summit scheduled to take place in Spain later this month. In fact, what's the latest?
Yeah, a lot of eyes are on this. That's because both President Yoon Suk-yeol and Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida, they are considering attending, considering being the key word there, and it's taking place June 29th to 30th in Madrid. Quiet discussions, according to reports, are underway to arrange what would be the first meeting of those two leaders since late 2019. And this is, of course, raising hopes of a chance to set aside historic disputes. There have been meetings between top officials and leaders of the two countries before, but it hasn't really led to any kind of developments or any bettering of relations. But of course, a meeting is better than no meeting. So there are kind of hopes that maybe there could be a chance that these disputes could be resolved if this meeting does happen. President Yoon Suk-yeol himself actually said he expects historical issues to be resolved smoothly from a standpoint of future-oriented cooperation. He's been saying ever since the beginning of his term of hopes of a better relationship with Japan, namely in the aim of kind of cooperating against North Korean threats as well, in cooperation with the US as well. And it seemed at the time that the Japanese government was also on board with Yoon Suk-yeol's kind of approach and stance in terms of bilateral relations between Korea and Japan. And also, when asked if he plans to attend the actual NATO meeting and whether a summit with Kishida is under consideration, Yoon said his government is actually preparing for it, but he did note that it's difficult to say if it's been fixed. So he certainly seems open to the idea. The presidential office is reported to have sent a team, actually, to Spain in advance that includes officials from the foreign ministry. Japanese officials are also reportedly planning to travel to Madrid as well. Now, if Yoon travels to Spain, it would actually be his first overseas trip as Korean president. The NATO summit could also set the stage for a summit trilaterally with US President Joe Biden as well, or another bilateral summit with the US president. But the presidential office is wondering, though, whether the NATO summit is suitable for Yoon's first overseas trip and whether his attendance there can actually benefit or hurt national interest. It is considered to be quite a delicate meeting to attend, because there's a lot of other countries that might not really welcome a South Korean leader's trip to NATO.
Like Russia and China?
Yeah, namely Russia and China. Now, Korean presidents usually make their first overseas trip to the United States. That was the case for Lee Myung-bak, Park Geun-hye, and Moon Jae-in as well. But considering for Yoon, Biden actually visited Korea just very shortly after Yoon's inauguration. It seems like the US for now, a trip to the US for now is kind of on the back burner. Also, news about Yoon's possible participation in the NATO summit came amid the People Power Party chairman Lee Jun-suk's visit to Ukraine. Now, the timing of the news about Yoon's possible visit to Spain and the ruling party leader's arrival in Ukraine, they've raised concerns from liberal politicians, especially here in Korea, as those two events could stir up tensions with Russia and China as well. So Seoul have to have a lot of deliberations and careful thinking about whether Yoon's visit to NATO will actually serve in the interest of South Korea. Of course, South Korea wouldn't really want to have any tense relations, especially with China as well, especially when it comes to resolving any North Korean issues. So, of course, they are mulling the issue and deliberating on it very carefully.
All right, and let's turn our attention to our pandemic response at home. This is our fourth keyword of the day.
COVID-19 still priority.
The KDCA has a new chief, and she has stressed that COVID-19 is still top national agenda. What else does she have to say?
Right, so Baek Yong-lan said the KDCA will roll out policies that safeguard the public against the COVID-19 pandemic, as well as aid economic recovery under the new administration. She told reporters that response measures will reflect wider implications of the pandemic, and she noted disruptive variants are continuously emerging, as well as new threats such as monkeypox and mysterious hepatitis in children, although the government has kind of downplayed the effects of monkeypox in the country. Baek has been an outside expert on the advisory panel for the KDCA, so although she has taken the helm of the KDCA, she has been very much involved in the KDCA's activities during the years that it has been working during the pandemic. And she was also an infectious disease specialist at Samsung Medical Center, so she has plenty of expertise and experience, and she says she would use the opportunity and her expertise to deliver policies that will not only safeguard public health, but also assist a return to everyday life. But she also stressed that the KDCA should not cave into pressure to get back to normal or abandon measures to contain the disease when the science does not warrant it. And she said, once we do away with isolation, the expected outcome is, of course, an increase in infections. If that happens and the country's medical system is overwhelmed once again, then she said the country has no choice but to bring back some restrictions. And she also said imposing an entry ban on travelers of foreign nationality, for one, could be reviewed in the event of the emergence of more fatal COVID-19 variants or new infectious diseases. That's mainly because, especially at the beginning of the pandemic for Korea anyway, most of the rise of infections was due to imported cases from abroad. Now, on expanding the distribution of fourth vaccine doses to the general public or general population, she said the KDCA was looking into trends in variant proportions and case rates, both here and globally, as well as updates in vaccines.
All right, let's quickly move on to our final keyword of the day.
Key party meeting.
So according to latest reports, North Korea opened a key Workers' Party meeting with its leader Kim Jong-un in attendance to discuss what the regime calls a series of important issues. So what do we know so far?
Right. Well, we don't really know what those important issues are yet. There hasn't really been an announcement by state media, but the meeting did come amid speculation that the country may conduct a nuclear test soon. So it is being closely watched. As I said, while the agenda was not released, likely among the issues at hand are the economy, as well as the COVID-19 outbreak and the serious drought that's hurt the North Koreans' agriculture. And outside observers wonder if the session would give clues about the timing of a potential nuclear weapons test by the regime. In the previous meeting, the North Korean leader reiterated his commitment to bolster the country's nuclear program. Whether a similar kind of pledge will come out this time remains to be seen. This is the fifth plenary meeting of the party's 8th Central Committee, and it will reportedly continue on through today. The Workers' Party said at a Politburo meeting last December that there would be a plenary meeting in June. So this meeting isn't out of the blue. It was previewed or was speculated to happen anyway. South Korea's unification ministry expressed hopes that Pyongyang's leadership would discuss ways to normalize relations with Seoul as well as denuclearization. A ministry official said the ministry is closely watching to see if the regime's future domestic and international policies, and the official said Seoul will be able to give a more accurate analysis of the meeting once and if announcements are made by the North.
Just piecing together what has been said, I mean, before the UN General Assembly, North Korea said that their missile tests are defensive in nature. I'm not sure if that takes us in a forward motion at the very least. We'll leave it there for now. We'll pick it up next week. Have a safe weekend, Adam.
You too. See you next week.
If you're listening to our program using the podcast service, just a reminder that we do go live Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. Korea Standard Time. So tune in and help us make the show more informative by giving us your input. See you bright and early on Good Morning Seoul.